you have to assume that at the beginning, those are your worst episodes.
Yeah.
That's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if they were your best episodes, that means it's just going to get worse.
Yeah,
after that.
so true.
You don't want the height of your podcast to
Right.
be episode 1. You
Right.
actually just want that to be, we're
Yeah.
just practicing, we're just learning, and then you get better and better and better.
Yeah.
So by the way, thanks for having me on season 2.
Of
just kidding.
course, yeah.
Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace.
Well, I want to say welcome to all of you all to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. It is my pleasure to bring amazing guests to the stage to talk to you about all things sales and a few other things as well. Today, I have someone who I have been chomping at the bit to have because I met her a full year ago and knew that she not only has her own podcast, but helps people with podcasts, teaches podcasting. She does all things podcasting. And today I'm hoping that she's going to tell us a little bit about how we can use podcasting to increase our sales. So let me introduce you to Sarah Heeter. Sarah, welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I also have been chomping at the bit to talk to you more and just, this is going to be so fun.
Oh, for sure. Will you do me a favor and tell us, we'll get the bio and all that formal stuff later, but tell us a little bit about what you do, who you serve, and something that we're never going to read about on your bio or see on your website.
Yeah, okay. I've been prepared for this. I've been binging season 1, which is so good. So I help mostly business owners, but sometimes kind of hobbyists or lifestyle brands strategically launch, grow, and monetize podcasts in order to expand their audience, establish their expertise, and make more money, find more creative ways to make more money, right? So I think something interesting about me that you might not know, and I guess it depends how deep you follow. Listen, I've been podcasting since 2016, and I guessed a lot. So I share a lot of stuff online. So you can find a lot of stuff about me. Like, it's actually unemployable. No, I'm just kidding. But one thing that you might not know is that I am a lifetime member of Girl Scouts, and actually,
I was a Girl Scout too.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you know what? A lot of times, people who are in sales or in business, were in Girl Scouts.
Oh yeah, on my honor, I will try to serve God, my country. I mean, literally, live by the love of Girl Scout. Yeah,
yes.
Brownie and Girl Scout.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Very, very cool. So I know you've been in podcasting for half your life, but
it feels like it.
How did you get involved and why?
Yeah, I am the type of person who, whenever I'm in an audience or I am exposed to something, I always find myself thinking, I could do that.
Yeah.
It's like, sometimes it's true. I could. I can do a lot of things. And then some things it's like, okay. But when I first discovered podcasts as a listener, I really thought like, I could do this. And the person who's least surprised that I built a career out of talking is my mom.
Of
so,
course.
I mean, I've been doing it my whole life. So I found a calling and it is talking.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. And so what made you decide to help other people?
Yeah, well, it was really pretty natural, right? I discovered the hard way. How do you get a podcast on the internet, right? Back in 2016, figured it out, pieced it together, coded a lot of stuff. I mean, made it way harder than it needed to be.
For sure.
But once I got one on the internet, people started coming out of the woodwork to ask, how did you do that? Can you help me do that? And then it actually became part of my 9-to-5, where I worked for a real estate consulting company, and they help agents selling. So there was a lot of sales exposure there. So I was doing marketing and operations for them. And they kind of mentioned offhand, maybe we would start a podcast. We've been thinking about this. And I was like, I know how to do that. But the thing is, once I said, I know how to do that, I'd actually learned how to do it well, because then it was part of my job. And so that's when I actually learned the strategy behind podcasting. And they're the ones who actually said, you need to start your own business doing this. And they started actually trading my time working for them to help their network start podcasts. So that's where it all started. That
is amazing. Oh my God. So many questions come from that one thing. So for the average person who's sitting here listening to us right now and saying, I could do that.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that everyone could make money online with the podcast, and what, if not, what are the things that people might need to have in advance of that?
That's a good question. And I think, generally speaking, what I love to say is that podcasting is for everybody. I think that podcasting, what our kind of brand promise is that podcasting is a really low barrier to entry. It's a great opportunity to build your own platform and use your voice, because your voice matters. Right. Now, when it comes to can you leverage a podcast to sell, it's going to come down to all the same things that you're talking about in every single episode of this podcast of people struggle. People struggle with putting themselves out there. A lot of people start podcasts. The biggest mistake, I guess, with selling on a podcast that I see is that people who host podcasts don't talk about their own offers.
So good.
So we don't know. We don't know what do you actually do? Yeah. Right? Like, you highlight your guests so much, but we don't actually know, not you specifically, actually, you have some great solo episodes where you really emphasize your expertise. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And I learned a lot, and I'm like excited about listening to your show, but this is a continued issue that the proverbial you have on a podcast.
I believe that. And to be honest with you, I had to learn that.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's this part of us who feel like it's self-serving to talk about ourselves. It's fine to talk to other people and to showcase their expertise, but talk about ourselves, Where do you think that comes from?
Well, you talk a lot about sort of having this service-oriented heart, or like a servant-oriented heart, especially bringing your faith into things. And there's such a level of wanting to serve others. So the opportunity to build a platform to lift other people seems like it'd be really true to your heart. And that's true for a lot of people I work with as well. Right. Many people I meet with, when I say, why a podcast? Like, what do you want to get out of it? They say, I want to help people. I said, no. Yeah. That's what you want them to get out of it. Yeah. What do you want to get out of this podcast? Because it's really hard for you to measure ROI if you don't know what it is that you're trying to achieve with your podcast in the first place. So what I like to always say is that if you have a podcast where you ever have guests, so whether that's every episode, some episodes, whatever it is, you need to think of your podcast kind of as your house. Yes. They're a guest in your house. And essentially, it's like you've invited me to your family dinner, because the people listening to your podcast, you take that seriously, right? Sure. Those are your people. Yeah. So to invite me in, I can't just show up and start selling stuff as a guest, because then I'm like, it's like you invited a door-to-door vacuum salesman to dinner. Like, I'm not doing that, right? Oh my God. So actually, it's your house. You own this. This is your family. So then when you approach an interview conversation, it's coming at it from that perspective of like, hey, I am the expert here. You are a guest. And you can make relationships with the people here. And if they're genuine and authentic, you can invite them to your house. Yeah. But you are a guest in my house.
Girl, let's just stop right there. Because that was a whole masterclass right there. Thank you. It really was. Because I firmly believe that on some level, we have this, I know I invited them, but I have to be nice and let them do whatever they want to do. Now, if they're in my house, they're not running through all my, 100%. They're not going to my bedroom.
If so, they're not invited back.
So true. And when you say it that way, it's like, wow. And I think I would even take that as far to say any sales situation is that same premise, because we give away so much power under the auspices of being polite, whereas people are depending on you to be the expert, to know what they should do, to tell them which direction, where is the bathroom, how do I get to it, right? And so that's such a great explanation, such a great parallel.
Thank you.
Oh my God, so good.
And it takes practice, right? Like, nobody is as good as they're going to get when they start a podcast. And this is another thing I always tell people. The quickest path to getting good is starting. Yes. And then you have to assume that at the beginning, those are your worst episodes. Yeah. That's actually a good thing. Yeah. Because if they were your best episodes, that means it's just going to get worse. Yeah. After that, so true. You don't want the height of your podcast to be episode 1. You actually just want that to be, we're just practicing, we're just learning, and then you get better and better and better. Yeah. So by the way, thanks for having me on season 2. I'm just kidding.
We're getting better. So true. So what would you say then is the best way for people? Because, okay, let me just tell you, I obviously, like most of us, I listen to podcasts for information and education, but also because I'm like, what should I be doing better? What are some of the things that are really working for these people? And when I see people, I could probably name several people that I know are blowing, up as far as like financially, they're getting sponsors, they're doing all these great things. And many of us aspire to that. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, what are some of the ways that we could be using our podcast as part of our sales funnel? What are some things besides not just showcasing who we are and what we do? What are some other things that we should be doing in order to use it as part of our sales funnel?
I'm going to speak again specifically to the nature of having guests on your show, because I know you do have guests. Right. Obviously, you do have guests on your show. Girl, yeah. So I think a really good opportunity, and you had a whole beautiful episode in season 1 about networking and the power of networking in sales. Mm-hmm. The people who are coming on your podcast should be people that you either have established relationships with or you want continued relationships with. And they need to want to have a relationship with you. Yeah. So not having somebody who wants to come in, share, do a book tour, right? And share like, here's what I buy it. And then they are like, talk to you never, right? So one of the things that I do personally for my own podcast is I have a form that people fill out when they want to come on. So do you. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I ask is, do you want to be added to the email list? It's not required. Right. But if they say no, they're not coming on. Yeah. Because that tells me a lot about how much they do or don't want to be a part of my world. If you know you don't want to be a continued part of my world, why would I invite you to family dinner? True. But vice versa, the people who are like, yes, please let me be part of the fam, right? Then those are people who they may or may not ever be your clients, but they're going to send you people.
That's so true. So good. Every person in your company is part of the sales team, but most of them don't know it and they don't have the tools or the confidence. That's where my Reluctant Sales Team program has helped hundreds of people to reach their goals. The next program starts soon. Visit tishtimes.com/make-more-sales to get the details and to enroll your team. You bring up a great point because I've learned a different or a better way to do this now, but I joined a couple of like groups where people are podcasting and they're showing you how to get guests and everything. And somehow my link just got put in that group. And so I started getting people on my calendar. I'm like, who are you? And why are you at my kitchen table?
Exactly.
And so now if I don't know someone, I absolutely interview them before they are even, given an opportunity to be invited to be on the podcast, because like you said, this isn't someone that I would spend time with any other time.
Yeah, you're not going to come spend the night in my house with my family.
And I'm like, and we don't ever want to see you again, right? Exactly. And that's such a great point. And I almost felt bad about it because I was like, no chemistry, not my person, doesn't have my audience, do not love my audience either. They don't have my audience that I want to reach, nor do they really want to care about my audience. Right. Not a good fit. Right. But I bet you there are people who feel like there's a requirement to say yes to people just because they need to fill up their slots. And so what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that is probably part of it. And if you're having trouble filling spots, then we have to find another content plan, right? And a marketing plan for reaching people, because I hope that you've had this experience. For me, I'm for my own podcast, I have recorded all the way through April already. Mm-hmm. And I have a long list of people who I could interview who have applied, who weren't necessarily like my top choice fit, but absolutely could bring them on. Mm-hmm. So I think I could podcast for a year, right? Yeah. And I think that, so that's part of it, is we need to look at like, why are you having trouble filling your guest spots? And there's a lot of reasons why that might be. Yeah. And then if you're actually not having trouble filling them, you just feel like maybe that's an obligation, then, or if you think that's how it's supposed to be. I've actually gotten into like arguments on threads with people who are guests, though they like to be guests on podcasts, who they say, of course I don't want an ongoing relationship with the host. I'm trying to do a tour. I want to be on 50 podcasts this year. I'm not trying to build relationships. I'm like, why would I have you on my show?
Absolutely.
So you can give the exact same canned interview you gave 49 other times on other shows, and then you're never going to talk to me or my audience again unless they buy from you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
That doesn't feel good.
Not at all.
So, I mean, coming back down to just from a core values point, what are your core values? Find other people who share those core values, and those are great guests.
Okay. Let me just talk to y'all for a second, because if you are really paying attention, I hope you're taking notes, because you're learning how to build your sales funnel utilizing podcasting in a way that feels good to you and to the guests, right? Because my whole thing is, I don't want to feel salesy and slimy and weird and yucky and icky when I'm talking to someone, but I definitely don't want them to feel like Okay, the title of my book is Networking is Not a One-Night Stand.
Yeah.
Because who wants a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, if I'm being honest, right? Who wants to feel like...
It depends on the context. I mean, listen, no shade. We're not shaming anyone here.
We're not, but I'm just saying, I'd like to get to know you.
You're not inviting them to family dinner.
I'm not.
Yeah. Listen, serves a purpose.
I want a relationship in most cases.
Yeah.
And if there is not a mutual benefit, you know what I mean? There at least needs to be a mutual benefit to the relationship. And I think that people, whether it be podcasting or even other aspects of the sales process, if we're not taking that into consideration, we're missing a lot of opportunities. We're probably burning a lot of bridges as well.
Yep.
Not only with the people that we're having the interviews or conversations with, but the audience members who are like, why did you have her? Why did you bring him? I don't want to hear that, Yeah.
And then what are they going to come back and try again next week? Or are they going to say like, oh no, this podcast isn't for me? There's 4 million other podcasts out there I could be listening to.
So true.
What keeps me, and there's not 4 million, but there's a chunk of podcasts out there about sales. What makes me want to listen to you?
Exactly.
What makes me choose this podcast? I could listen to others, right?
True.
So give them that know, like, and trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the things right now that, because, tell us your podcast. What is it called? So everybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
My podcast is called Big Brave Business. It's exactly what it sounds like. We have big and brave conversations about business. You're obviously going to come.
I'm definitely coming for sure. We're having dinner and dessert and the whole
yes, I have you on my list for season 3 of planning it out. But yeah, basically, there's a lot of ethical dilemmas and a lot of bad advice out there about sales, marketing, running a business, hiring, managing a team, serving clients. We're feeling the pinch of capitalism all around, no matter who you are. And it's ingrained in this kind of entrepreneurship world. So a lot of people who become entrepreneurs and who are leaders in their own small business, et cetera, they're not trying to build the exact thing that they left or the exact thing that they hate. The reason they don't have a 9-to-5, right? Well, they have a 12 to 12, right?
Yeah,
all the time.
much.
But the reason they don't work in the corporate world, right? So, there's ethical dilemmas in that. And there's a lot of big questions like, how do we do things better? How do we do things differently? So that's what we talk about on Big Brave Business. There's 4 main content pillars: revolutionary leadership, business ethics and core values, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and then institutional interrogation. So just really asking the hard, juicy questions and going from there.
Oh my God. I know that's a lot of fun.
It is so fun. It is so fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm so sure. I can't wait to be there with you as well. So what in this particular time, what are your biggest, aspirations for both your podcast, your business? What are you really looking to accomplish in 2025 and beyond for your business?
Oh man, we could talk about this for a week, right?
Yeah.
But my big goal personally for my business is I want to build a business I can sell and create a level of financial security that generationally my family has never known. That's honestly the big picture goal for myself.
Yeah.
As far as okay, so you have this podcasting business. What do you set out to do? Obviously, there's an offer and you're helping people, and where did that come from? It's really integrated. I mentioned, kind of that sort of mission statement of build your own platform, use your voice matters. There is a core value element to really helping people whose voices are underrepresented in their industry and their community, or in podcasting, because it's mostly middle-aged white dudes, right? It's skewed. So helping more people have an opportunity who aren't necessarily, and so my company's called PodFox. I liked the kind of imagery of the fox, because this idea of this clever, wily, you might not be invited to the table, but the fox is going to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
Or they're going to build their own table, right? That's what we're going to do, right? We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're trying to do with PodFox. And then Big Brave Business was really, I wanted intentional networking with people who share my core values. Those are also my favorite people to work with. So initially it was just there's a lot of bad advice out there. How do we create a space for good advice and real conversations, right? But then also it's become well, this is the actual network I would want to tap into. These are the type of people I would want to work with. They know the type of people I would want to either as clients or collaborations, or to learn from. I learned so much on every single episode. I'm sure you feel that too.
Yeah.
So surrounding myself with people who are smarter than me is like a big about some things, right?
Smart
That's
thing to do.
the main thing I want to do with my podcast. And it leads to, these are also the type of people I would love to help with podcasting.
Absolutely, for sure. So what would you say then, or who would you say are the people that you're referring to that you really attract the most or want to attract? What would those people, what are they saying to themselves? What are they looking for right now?
I think primarily the person I love working with the most and who seems to be most attracted to the space is the person who entrepreneurship is an act of revolution. It's an act of public service.
Yeah.
It's wanting to create something for yourself that is making the world a better place. Like whatever I'm doing here, let it be good, right? Let it be making good, doing good for someone, for others, right? So whether that's through writing or through podcast production or through sales consulting or whatever the video production, whatever the service is, right? Or coaching. But there's an act of, let it be good, right?
Yeah. I love that so much. Do you feel as though there are still areas as using, podcasting as part of your business, part of your sales process, the way that you're attracting people? What is the thing that you feel like right now you really want to focus on in order to draw more of those people?
Yeah, I think my biggest area of opportunity personally is systems. I am a do it scrappy kind of person. I'm a get started, because the sooner you get started, the sooner you get better. I'm a big advocate for, if you want to start a business, then, and I know like most people who are listening to this already have one, but if you want to start a business, then I'm a big advocate for like, you need a Stripe link and a privacy policy, and that's it. Like get going, right? Yeah. But that means, because I started Scrappy, that I've kind of built a business on vibes. So now I have a team and we have these systems we're building out, and that's giving a lot more structure, which I think is going to be really effective. Yeah. But as I brought on team, and it really shined a spotlight on all of the areas that need systems, it was definitely like, ooh, here's a lot of stuff. So it became kind of a joke with my team where we'd start talking about like, so what's the process for this? Or do we have anything for this? And I just kind of look at them and smile, and it's like, it's all up here. That's a big area of opportunity for me. And then with my podcast, I'm trying to go forth and try things bravely to be able to tell my clients about. So a big thing that I'm going to be piloting in season 3 is group conversations. So instead of just one-on-one, it's gonna be 2 to 5 of us. Wow. We have a big question. We're gonna together explore that big question for the duration of the episode, and that's it. Just a question, but 3 to 5 of us on the call. And so I'm excited about trying something different. So, you talked about some of us like aspire to have sponsorships or whatever. So if I'm consulting to other people, here's how you do it. I also am doing it for myself so that I can be able to speak to, what is that experience like? Yeah.
It's interesting. Something that I'm kind of kicking around and thinking about doing is people, because obviously I would love to work with everybody, but I can't. Yeah. But I think it'd be really cool to do some on-the-spot coaching for people during a podcast. Yes. I think that would be fantastic.
I think that would be so great.
Yeah. And giving people an opportunity to kind of get their questions answered while watching someone else get their breakthrough. I think that'd be pretty powerful.
And that also creates this sense of like, for the person listening, wait, I want her brain on my business.
Exactly.
And that makes them really crave being that person who's in the chair, right? In the hot seat. Yeah. I think that's
we'll do some hot seat applications coming.
I love it.
And we'll get some coaching for sure, right? So tell me this. What is the top 3 things that the person who's listening to this and saying, I'm in business, I love what they're talking about, podcasting seems really scary and a lot of work. What's the top 3 things that someone can do right now to get started having a podcast as part of their business? Okay,
so we have a roadmap. We call it a roadmap to revolutionary podcasting. It's 5 phases to go from like phase 1 is getting clear all the way to phase 5 is like leveraging your podcast for the vision that you had for it, right? Whatever it could be. Right. And that might include like podcasting full time, or it might include sponsorships, or, I've got tons of clients coming, knocking on my door, whatever it is, right? But regardless of that, it takes you through those things. But phase 1, and we work on all 5 of the phases at the same time. But phase 1 is phase 1 because no matter what you're working on, growing your audience, etc., it's always going to kick you back here if you haven't mastered it. So phase 1 is get clarity, and there's 3 steps to it. So I feel like that's a good start.
I love that.
So the 3 steps are, number 1, who's listening? You need to be really, really, really clear on who that person is. And this is the biggest, I guess, area of opportunity I see with people who are struggling to get their podcast to grow or they're not selling offers, honestly, is like, you have to be clear about who it is because it can't be everybody.
Right.
So podcasting, one of the most beautiful things about it is it actually mimics the intimacy of a phone call.
Yeah.
And in order to channel that intimacy of a phone call, you can't be to everybody. You can't be on the phone with everybody. It needs to be somebody specific, right? So being really, really clear on who that person is. The second part is, what do you want them to get out of it?
Yeah.
And both short-term goals and long-term goals. You know, every single episode that they listen to, what are they getting out of each episode? And it's a promise, right? Yeah. Every episode you're going to walk away with this. And then also long-term, if you listen for a year or 2 years or 5 years, right? Then why do you keep listening? And what have you gotten? How has it impacted you in those 5 years? So we're thinking both of those things. So what do you want them to get out of it? What are your goals for your audience? And then the third part is, what do you want to get out of it? What are your goals for yourself, right? Yourself, your life, your business, your brand. It could be that you want to grow your audience. It could be that you want to establish your expertise. It could be that you want to make money in new ways, right? And I mean, one of the things has to be that it's fun. It has to be fun because, to your point, it is a lot of work.
It is.
So if it's not fun, then it's just more stuff on your to-do list. Nobody needs more stuff on your to-do list. So it has to be fun. So being really clear on those 3 things. And you know what? They are going to change and grow and evolve as you do, of course. But then that's why we have to keep coming back to those questions. And as long as you're really clear on those things, you could grow a successful podcast for sure. Yeah.
We need more time.
We'll have to do it again.
We'll definitely have to do it again. I'm going to come hang out with you and you're going to come back and hang out with me again. Sarah, please tell people what's the best way for them to reach out to you, especially if they're in that place of really wanting to launch their podcast.
Thank you so much for that. So of course, you can listen to Big Brave Business anywhere you listen to podcasts. I love it. It is every single time I record an episode or listen to my own show, I walk away going, I love this podcast so much. I'm so freaking proud of it. So please check out the podcast. If you want to launch your own podcast, my team actually offers a 100% free 90-minute strategy session for anybody thinking of launching a show. So there's no obligation to work with us. Of course, yes, we're going to share with you at the end, if we feel like it's a good fit, what we offer, what it would look like, and you can kind of make a decision to see if you think it's a good fit. But that's not the point. It is a strategy session for anyone who's thinking of launching a show. Totally private, totally free. And that's at launchmyshow.com. Launchmyshow.com. And then just in general, just to scope out Podfox or to find all the different social media, podfoxmedia.com. I mostly hang out on Instagram and Threads. Threads is kind of like my favorite place right now. And then I've been spending a little more time on LinkedIn as well. So if you're a social media person, those are the main places to find me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Sure. It was my absolute pleasure. We'll do part 2 soon. And thanks for hanging out with me.
I loved it.
For sure.
Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.